Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to review the film Legends of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole. Now, this is a film based on a children's book. I have not read the children's book. The book was released far after the time when I read children's book ended. And so I don't know how it compares to the book itself. But it's a children's book very much made into a film. This is a fairy tale, a fable. And it does an excellent job of conveying that. Now, I'm coming at this from the point of view of a person that's watched a lot of films, has read a lot of books, that understands a fair amount about how stories are structured. So, for me, I saw a lot of other things in this movie. I saw a young owl that was raised on stories of glory, of the stories in his world that were of the King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. His brother, who is rash and wants to get out in the world and do things and doesn't care about dreams and fables. And the two of them conflict. Now, one of the interesting things about this whole story is that everything takes place in a world where animals are sapient and tool-using, or at least moderately tool-using. There are no humans. This is not a human world. This is an animal world. There's a nanny that's a snake, though the nanny snake thing I thought was a little weird. I figured they would have picked another bird for a nanny, but, you know, what the heck. Maybe I'm being speciesist. And they don't use a lot of tools. For example, they use gauntlets that have blades on them for combat, and they wear helmets, which makes sense. You don't really want to put more than that on your body when you have to fly. So, yeah, having helmets and weapons on your claws, that makes sense. Anything else would just weigh you down. And, for example, they hunt, but even though they have technology, they don't raise livestock, which I thought was kind of weird. If you're going to have to go to the length of being, you know, that sapient, why don't you just raise livestock instead of hunting? But, you know, what do I know? There are other animals in the world. There are bats or snakes that are apparently just as intelligent. They encounter rats. I don't know if that was definitely an enemy, so I have no idea how smart they are. Maybe they're still the animal intelligence. I don't know if there's different animals of different levels of intelligence. There's an echidna in here, which is just as smart as the owl. Well, maybe just as smart as the owls. But besides seeing King Arthur and his knights, I saw the bad guys as like the forces of Sauron from Lord, the Tolkien. I saw the young Padawan and the master teaching him all about the Force, which was, for some reason, all I talked about, feel it in your gizzard, because apparently a gizzard is a very important part of an owl's spiritual life. I didn't get that one, but it's okay, I didn't have to. And there's adventuring, and there's companions, and there's danger, and there's good guys and bad guys, and there's a big climactic scene, and there's racism, and there's definitely this, like, Hitler Youth kind of group attached to the bad guys, and there's, you know, classism. There's people in charge called the pure and the bad guys, and everybody else is slaves. And so there's a lot of things going on in here, but it's very well delivered. It's delivered in a palatable manner to kids. I would consider this to be a perfect film for kids to watch. And I wouldn't have a problem with, like, handing this to your average 6 or 7 year old and just letting them watch it. There's nothing in it which is that scary, in my opinion. And of course, then the great climactic scene at the end, where the good guys, of course, win. That wasn't really hard to figure out. But I had a good time, even though so much of this film was just retreaded for me. It was something, you know, borrowed from other places and put together in a slightly different way. That's okay. That's all right if the stories aren't all wonderfully original. As someone recently commented to me, there are only 3 stories in the world, so, you know, this is one of them. And the one thing that, of course, is going to stand out is that the visuals are stunning. The graphics in this are beautiful. These owls look awesome. There's enough humor to keep you going. There's enough bright, vivacious characters to keep you interested. There's, you know, so at no point did I think that the pacing got slow enough to really have a kid lose interest. And there were enough peaks and valleys going in there to keep a child going, and it kept me interested. You know, I'm an old man. But I definitely enjoyed the film. I recommend it to anyone who's got kids, and especially if you have a thing for talking animals from the concepts that Disney used in the past, but you like something that looks a little less cartoony and a little more realistic. Well, here you go. They did an excellent job with this film, and they left a hook at the end that could very much be a stepping stone for a sequel. I have no idea if they plan on making a sequel. I think it would be cool to see a sequel. They did a good job with this. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I own it on DVD. So, again, if you like animation, if you like a good fable, if you have kids, I recommend this movie.